Welcome back to some guided notes. So today we're going to do section 3.1, but we're not going to do it the graphs. We're going to do this algebraically. So we're on the page that says solving 2x2 systems using substitution. So we're going to use two methods today, both involving algebra, neither involving a graph. So we're going to use substitution and elimination. Substitution means take one equation and substitute it into the other. But before we do that, you want to make one equation a little bit easier to work with. The easiest way, not the only way, but the easiest way to do this is to pick the variable that has a coefficient of 1. It doesn't matter which equation it's in. So this variable x right there has a coefficient of 1. It's going to be very easy to get that letter by itself. So all we have to do is add the 5y to the other side. So we get x equals 9 plus 5y. So what that means is we've already used that second equation. We have not used the first equation, and we now have to take this expression for x and put it back into the first equation. You have to use both equations. If you don't, you'll just keep going round and round in circles, and you'll just get like 0 equals 0 or 5 equals 5. You just keep getting the same thing over and over again. That's not very helpful. Whenever you use substitution, always use parentheses. Whether you're substituting in a number, a letter, an expression, use parentheses. So we have 2. That letter x is basically going to be gone, and the x is replaced with this new expression for x, 9 plus 5y. Then simply just finish writing the equation. We have no more x's, so we have no more substitution. Plus 3y equals 5. This equation, of course, now has one variable, which is much easier to solve. So we'll just distribute the 2. Combine like terms. So I'm going to leave this 18 alone. This is now 13y. Subtract the 18 from both sides. So we get 13y equals negative 13. Divide by the number in front of the letter, and we end up with y equals negative 1. Now we're still solving systems of equations. The answer is still a point of intersection. A point of intersection has an x and a y value. Now this is where you have a lot of choices. Put that negative 1 back into one of the equations. It doesn't matter which one you pick. You basically have 3. We have the 2 originals, and we have the one that we kind of move stuff around. So it really doesn't matter which one you pick. I'm going to actually pick this one, and I'm going to substitute in. With my substitution, I'm going to use parentheses. So we have x equals 9 plus 5. The y comes out. You put in the negative 1. So this is 9 minus 5. So we get x equals 4. Please write the answer as a point, x, comma, y. Now you do not have to classify that, but that is the answer to the problem. So let's try this again. Again, the first choice that you make is probably the most important. Which letter are you going to get by itself? So in this problem, we have 2 letters that have a coefficient of 1. It doesn't matter which one you pick. I'm going to pick y because I picked x in the first problem. So I'm just going to get this letter y by itself. So we have y equals 4 minus x. Now you have to take that and substitute it back into the other equation. So we have 2x. That doesn't include y, so that stays 2x. Anytime you use substitution, use parentheses. Take out the letter y, put in the 4 minus x, and then, of course, finish writing the problem. Now solve the equation. 2x, distribute the 2 just to here. So we get 2x plus 8 minus 2x equals 10. Please combine like terms. 2x and a minus 2x, oh, those are gone. We end up with a weird statement, 8 equals 10, and we have no variable. You can't solve for a variable if you don't have one. And 8 equals 10, that's not even a true statement. This doesn't even make sense. So we have no variable, and we have a statement that is a lie. And so whenever this happens, this is when the lines are parallel, so we have no solution. We have no answer at all. So these lines do not intersect. Another method that you can do some algebra with is called elimination. Elimination is when you try to eliminate one letter. So you have some choices to make, and it doesn't matter which letter you choose. I. So it doesn't matter if you choose X or Y, but you have some work to do to get rid of either X or Y. So what you want is you want the same coefficient, but opposite signs. So I'm already looking for opposite signs, and I see that the X's have opposite signs and the Y's have opposite signs. So it really doesn't matter, right? These are opposite and these are opposite. We don't care about the constants out here. So we're only looking at X or Y. Also, I'm looking to do the least amount of work as possible. So what I notice is 10 and 5 go together a lot better than 7 and 6. So I am going to choose to get rid of the Y's. This equation is going to stay the way it is. So this one's going to remain 7x minus 10y equals negative 8. This equation, in order to make this 5y a 10, I have to multiply by 2. But I can't just multiply one thing by 2. I have to multiply all of the things by 2. So I'm just going to write that out there to remind myself. Now, where did the 2 come from? It came from my head, because that's what makes a 5 a 10. So you're not going to be told what to use. You have to kind of come up with it on your own. So this is a distributive property. Distribute to all three things. And I'm going to write it underneath this other equation. So now I have negative 12x plus 10y equals 8. We're going to add these two equations together. Just always add. So 7 plus a negative 12, that's a negative 5x. The 10y's are gone. That was the whole point, was to eliminate something, and we did. Now negative 8 plus 8 is a 0. Do not be afraid of a 0. A 0 is not that situation. A 0 is a number, and we can graph it. We can have it as an answer. We still have a letter, which means we still have a solution. So divide by negative 5. 0 on top means x is 0. Now, because it's a point of intersection, you have to go back and find y. Now, I have a lot of this stuff is written all over, so I'm going to just use, doesn't matter which one, I'm just going to use the top equation and substitute my 0 back in. So we have 7x minus 10 times 0 equals negative 8. Again, substitution, I use parentheses. This is, of course, a 0 right here. So 7, substituted in the wrong spot. It's x equals 0, not y. So let's do this right. So I have 7 times 0 minus 10y equals negative 8. So this is my 0. So now I have negative 10y equals negative 8, and I'll divide by negative 10, reduce your fractions, and we get y equals positive 4/5. So the point of intersection, 0, 4/5. Now for this one. The 9 and the 12, we could get to 36, I guess. If you look at this and you think, I don't know how to make these match, then don't do it. Come up with something else. Let's look at the y's. So if we look at the y's, we can turn 6 into 24. We can turn 8 into 24. But I need one to be negative. So I'm going to have to multiply by a negative on one of these. And it doesn't matter which one you do. So I'm going to multiply the top equation by negative 4. And I'm going to multiply the bottom equation by positive 3. I am trying to work with the y values here. I feel like those numbers are smaller and it would be easier. It doesn't matter if the top one's negative or the bottom one's negative. I just made the top one negative because it's a 6 and it's a smaller number. I don't know why I made that negative. But you're going to distribute that negative 4 to all the things inside there. So we get 36x minus 24y, and 4 times 0 is 0. Now for the bottom equation, you distribute the 3. Notice how much rewriting there is. Please make sure you rewrite. It will just make it easier for you to keep track of what you're doing. So we get negative 36x. 3 times 8 is a positive 24y, and 3 times 0 is a 0. Now when I add these up, I'm supposed to only eliminate one variable. I eliminated all the variables. that's weird, but we end up with 0 equals 0. So this is like this one, where we have no variable. No variable means we can't solve for anything. So 0 equals 0, this is a true statement. So if it's true, that means it's an infinite amount of solutions. So it's all the solutions. So it's like the same line. One line's on top of the other. So we have infinite solutions. So when you have no variables, you either get infinite solutions or you get no solutions. If you still have a variable, you still have an answer. Now a story problem is going to always have an answer. So don't just say, oh, that one's no solution. No, it doesn't work like that. If it's a story problem written in words, you're going to have an answer for it. So let's take a look at what this says. Keep in mind, we have to use 2 letters. That's what we're doing. So Karate School offers a package of 12 group lessons and 2 private lessons that cost $110, and then it has a package of 10 group and 3 private for $125. Find the cost of 1 group lesson and 1 private lesson. I don't know if that means add the group lesson and the private lesson, but we'll definitely have to find 1 of each. So we'll figure out what that means when we're done. So I'm going to set up my variables. I'm going to use, I don't know, G for group. I don't have to graph it, so I don't need X and Y. And I'm going to pick P for private. And then it works out pretty well. You just sort of read the sentence. So we have this sentence right here. And it says 12 group, so 12G and plus 2 privates, 2P equals 110. I'm going to get rid of the $sign just for my solving. Then the second sentence, 10 group, or the second part here, tells me how to set up the second equation. 10 group plus 3 private equals 125. And now you decide, which letter are you going to get rid of? I want to get rid of P because it's smaller numbers, which means 2 and 3 have a multiple or I can each get to 6. I can multiply each in order to get to a 6. So I'm going to have to multiply the top equation by, let's say, 3, because 2 times 3 will give me 6. I'll multiply the bottom equation. I want one to be negative. I'll multiply the bottom equation by -2. So I get a +6 and a -6. So I'm going to rewrite all of this. Again, this is distributive property for all the parts, 3 things. So 36G plus 6P equals 330. I'll distribute the bottom one. -20G minus 6P, don't forget your negative, equals a -250. They got all multiplied by a negative. Add this together. We get 16G, these are gone, that's what's supposed to happen, equals 330 minus 250 is 80, and divide by 16. So G is 5, or $5. Substituting this back in, I got lots of stuff to use. I'm going to use the bottom equation because I can take 10 times 5 kind of easier. So 10 times 5 plus 3P equals 125. 50 plus 3P is 125. Subtract the 50. 3P is 75, and divide by 3. Looks like P is 25. So now we got to figure out what are we doing with this. What's the question want? How do we answer the question? It says find the cost of 1 group lesson and 1 private lesson. Still not clear if I'm supposed to add that together. Like I used and before, and I added. And up here means add. So I don't know if I'm supposed to add them or not, but I'm just going to write this as 1 group lesson costs $5 and 1 private lesson costs $25. So not the $30, you don't have to add them together, just one of each. Don't forget to do your practice problems.